This program is brought to you by realestate.com.au. Keep moving with Australia's #1 address in property.
Welcome back. There are about 2,000 homes scheduled to be auctioned this week. That's down 8% when compared to the same period last year. New South Wales will hold about 750 auctions, with about 660 in Sydney. Victoria will hold 750 auctions, with most of them in Melbourne. Queensland will hold about 250 auctions, with about 140 in Brisbane. South Australia will hold about 130 auctions, with most of them in Adelaide. WA, Tasmania and the NT will hold 22 auctions between them, and Canberra will hold 54. Take a look at the most viewed properties going to auction this weekend, and in New South Wales, the top property is 25 Wendover Street, Doonside. This large 5-bedder has 3 bathrooms, big living areas and a double lock-up garage. In Victoria, the top property is 8 Woodfull Park Drive, Hoppers Crossing. This 4-bedder has 2 bathrooms, sits on about 630 square metres. It could do with a reno, but asking price is about $600,000. The top property in Queensland is 101 Turpin Road, Labrador. Now, this newly built 4-bedder has 3 baths, 3 parking spots. It's got massive open plan living areas, a big pool, and sits on about 780 square metres of space. The top property in South Australia is 3 Flora Street, Stepney. This home was built in 1890. It's been extensively renovated with 1 bathroom, 2 bedrooms and a parking spot, plus a nice garden that wraps around the whole property. The top home in Canberra is 9 Littleton Crescent, Cook. This 4-bedder has 2 baths, 4 parking spots, large indoor and outdoor living areas, plus a pool. And the most viewed property on the REA Group website this week is a colonial Queensland estate called Tarrangou. The address is 444 Lake Manchester Road, Colo, which is about 40 minutes drive from the Brisbane CBD. This is a dream property for horse enthusiasts and nature lovers. There's a grand homestead with 5 beds, 3 renovated bathrooms and dual living potential with 2 kitchens. The main house has the beautiful wraparound veranda and a wine cellar. It sits on 8 hectares, includes 2 stables, 5 fully fenced paddocks, a large dressage area, shed with tack room, water bore and plenty of land. There's also a 15-metre pool, guest house, pizza oven, veggie patch, garden sheds, irrigation system and a big fire pit. Lots of parking as well. This home's newly listed. And for more on property, I caught up with Flaherty from REA Group.
We've really seen demand ramp up in recent weeks. One of the things is that interest rates are expected to come down next week. That would bring 3 rate cuts this year. We're really starting to see, I think, that confidence grow. And if we look at the total number of homes on the market for sale, there's not as many as we were seeing a year ago, but clearance rates are still higher, selling conditions are still strong. So I think that signals further growth in property prices.
Yeah, because there isn't a lot of stock on the market, are things being a bit quicker with their sales times? Is there much quicker sales happening at the moment as opposed to previously?
Well, we have seen a slight improvement in the time on market, but compared to very, very hot conditions, what we're seeing at the peak of the market back at end of 21, 2022, we're not quite where we were. However, if we compare where we are now to 12 months ago, things are certainly selling faster than they were. And I think that as demand continues to ramp up, we're very likely to continue to see those time on market metrics remain pretty low.
And what parts of the country are doing really well at the moment?
Well, we had our latest home price data come out for June, and we actually saw price growth across every market in the country. So nationally, prices are up about 0.4%. We actually saw Brisbane hit a new record high. The median price of a house in Brisbane is now above that $1 million mark. But the best performing market has remained Adelaide, which did see the strongest growth over the month. Another interesting one was Hobart, which actually had been one of the weaker performing capital cities for several years, but now is one of the stronger ones. Prices still well below peak levels. And if we look at Melbourne and Sydney, we're seeing more moderate levels of growth. So prices are still rising, but not as strongly as what we're seeing in some of those other capitals.
Yeah, I think the thing that jumped out at me looking at that report was Melbourne is now the 5th ranked city in Australia when it comes to median prices.
Yeah, Melbourne's a funny one because if we go back just a few years, Melbourne was the second most expensive capital city to buy a home in, behind Sydney. But now we've seen it steadily fall down the ranks. First it was overtaken by Brisbane, then Adelaide, and a few months ago Perth overtook Melbourne. It's not just the median price of a home though, rents are also much more affordable in Melbourne. It is the second cheapest city to rent in, behind only Hobart. We are looking though at a potential comeback for Melbourne. If we look at the most recent few months of data, price growth has been quite strong in Melbourne, especially inner Melbourne. So we're seeing some pretty strong results in inner Melbourne. But having said that, we're still in a situation where the median price of a home is below where it was sitting 12 months ago.
And this week we got some building approvals numbers. Looks like approvals are slowly starting to pick up again.
They're starting to pick up again, but it's not off a particularly high base. And unfortunately, the approvals numbers that have come through don't put us on track to reach the total number of homes that we need. Fingers crossed that with interest rates coming down further and property price growth continuing, that will help to improve the feasibility of more development projects. I think, though, that we're in a situation where, unless something dramatically changes, we're very likely to continue to see a shortfall in the number of homes that we're building relative to the number of people coming into the country.
So do you think it could be several years before housing supply and demand get back to more manageable levels?
Undoubtedly, because we know that in recent years we haven't built anywhere close to enough homes, particularly in markets like Perth and Brisbane and Sydney. And if we look at the total number of homes that are expected to come online based on current building approvals, that shortfall is going to continue. And every year that you see a shortfall builds on the previous shortfall. So we're getting a cumulative worsening in the undersupply of homes.
And Flaherty, great to have you on the show.
Thank you.